Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So look, some crimes get solved. The bad guy gets caught, justice is served, everyone goes home. But then there are these other cases, the ones that just stop. The evidence turns to dust, the leads go nowhere, and eventually, the files get buried in some forgotten cabinet at the police station. But here's the thing. For the families, the clock never stops ticking. They're still waiting, still wondering, still hoping for answers that might never come. Today, we're diving into 5 cold cases that are so disturbing, so mysterious, that they'll probably mess with your head for days. These are real stories, real people, and real nightmares that someone out there is still living through. Let's get into it. Alright, so picture this, you're 23 years old, you've got dreams of becoming a photographer, and you move to the big city to chase them. That's exactly what Tara Calico, actually her name was Tara Breenage, did when she left her small hometown of Del Rio, Texas. Tara came from this super religious family, 5 kids total, and she was determined to make it. But Houston ain't cheap, right? So while she's trying to build her photography career, she needs money, fast money, and that's how she ends up working at a place called the Men's Club. Now, if you don't know, this was a high-end, let's just say gentleman's club. The money was good, really good, but the clientele? Not always the greatest people. Tara wasn't your typical employee there. She was in school, had goals, and everyone knew this was just temporary for her. But sometimes temporary becomes permanent in the worst way possible. Her boyfriend Wayne wasn't thrilled about where she worked. Can't blame him, honestly. They fought about it a lot. And Tara had even told her mom she was thinking about leaving him. But she never got the chance. So here's where it gets weird. On August 3rd, 1992, it's a slow night at the club. The manager asks if anyone wants to leave early, and Tara jumps at the chance. Around 2 a.m., a security guard walks her to her car, a red Pontiac Fiero, and watches her drive off. That's the last time anyone sees her. The next morning, about 3 miles away, her car is just sitting on the side of the road. Wayne, her boyfriend, claims he went out looking for her and found it around 7 a.m. The car's locked, no hazard lights on, and inside there's a can of mace sitting on the passenger seat, ready to grab. But here's what's really messed up. Someone had removed the alternator belt, like deliberately disabled the car so it couldn't go anywhere. So Wayne calls the cops and tells them his story. He says he was at a pool hall the night before, tried calling Tara but couldn't reach her. Got home around 5 a.m. She wasn't there, so he went looking. Found the car on a busy freeway. Now, I don't know about you, but that seems awfully convenient. Wayne's out super late, supposedly looking for his girlfriend, and just happens to find her abandoned car? The cops thought the same thing. They zeroed in on him immediately. But here's the problem. There was no evidence. No proof a crime had even happened. For all they knew, Tara could have had a mental breakdown, pulled over, and just walked off into the night. Obviously, nobody really believed that, but without evidence, what could they do? Then things get even weirder. When police search Tara's apartment, they find these notes. Love notes, basically. Stuff like, "Please don't be scared. Do what your heart tells you. I'm very excited you'll marry me. And the more you hold out, the longer you jeopardize what I feel for you." Creepy, right? But here's the kicker, these notes weren't from Wayne. They were from some other guy, a customer at the club who apparently gave Tara $100 tips and knew all about her rocky relationship. Coworkers said she was stringing him along for the money. Police investigated him, but eventually ruled him out. So it's back to Wayne. Wayne, of course, denies everything. He goes on camera and says, "I haven't been charged with a crime. I love that woman to death. I didn't do anything. Only God has the answers." So what do you think happened? Tara was 5 feet 5 inches, 120 pounds when she disappeared. It's been over 30 years now. Her car was found, but she never was. And whatever happened after she drove away from that club is still a complete mystery. Alright, buckle up because this one is absolutely horrific. It's a Monday morning in Jakarta. Rush hour starting. People are heading to work. Street vendors are setting up. Traffic cops are directing cars. Just a normal day in one of the busiest parts of South Jakarta. On the sidewalk across from this big office building, there are 2 cardboard boxes just sitting there. At first, nobody thinks anything of it. They look like regular boxes, the kind you'd see after a delivery or whatever. People walk past them all morning. But as the sun gets higher and the day gets hotter, these boxes start to smell bad, like really bad. Flies are swarming around them, and a couple of security guards notice something's off. They tell a traffic cop, but he's busy directing traffic and basically waves them off. So the boxes just sit there, baking in the heat. Later that day, 2 homeless guys come by looking through trash, and they decide to check out the boxes. And what they find inside: absolute nightmare fuel. The first box has 13 cleanly severed bones and a human head. The flesh has been stripped off the bones, but the head? Totally intact. Eyes closed, face undamaged, like the person was just sleeping. The second box is somehow worse. Inside are 180 pieces of human flesh, cut up meticulously and packed in there. Internal organs, a lung, liver, spleen, all stacked neatly. Some organs are completely missing, like the bladder and pancreas. This wasn't some frenzied murder. This took time, planning, precision. The forensic pathologist who examined everything was a guy named Dr. Manam Idris, and he'd seen a lot of brutal stuff in his career. But he later said this was the most horrific case he'd ever worked on. The victim was a young man, probably 18 to 21 years old, about 5 feet 6 inches, kind of stocky build. He'd been stabbed multiple times in the chest, back, and stomach. After death, his body had been submerged in water. His fingertips were all wrinkled like a drowning victim's. Then someone had meticulously scraped every bone clean and washed all the blood off the flesh. Dr. Idris said the cuts were similar to how you'd prepare a roasted goat. That's how precise they were. He believed multiple people were involved because this would have taken hours. They needed privacy, a bathroom probably, and they knew what they were doing. Here's what makes it even creepier. They left enough details to identify the victim. His fingerprints were intact, his face was recognizable. But when police ran the prints, nothing, no match. For days, hundreds of people came to the morgue hoping to identify the body as their missing loved one. Every single lead went nowhere. Nobody knew who this guy was. On November 27th, the body was buried in a cemetery in West Jakarta without a name. The case became known as Siabuti 13, named after the district and the 13 bones in the first box. It's considered Indonesia's first modern mutilation case, and more than 40 years later, it's still unsolved. Whoever did this didn't just get away with murder. They completely erased this person from existence. And unless someone comes forward with the truth, that's how it's gonna stay. This case hits different because it starts so innocently. Meet Kristen David. She's 22 years old, just finished her senior year at the University of Idaho, studying political science. She's got one more semester to go before graduation, and life is looking pretty good. On June 25th, she goes back to her apartment near campus to grab a few things she'd left behind, mainly her blue 10-speed bike. The plan is simple. Ride that bike 30 miles south to the town of Lewiston, where her sister lives, and spend the summer there. The next morning, June 26th, she hops on her bike and heads out. It's a long ride, nearly 30 miles down Highway 95, this rural route that winds through farmland and small towns. A few people see her along the way, She's wearing a yellow tank top and brown pants, her long hair tied back. She never makes it to her sister's house. 8 days later, some guys are fishing along the Snake River. That's the border between Washington and Idaho, and they spot something floating near the shore. It's a black garbage bag, and inside is a human torso. Over the next few days, more bags surface. One has limbs, another has a head. The remains are identified as Kristen David. The bags had been weighted down with pieces of metal, but it wasn't enough to keep them underwater. And here's an important clue. Most of the body parts were wrapped in old newspaper, all from the Lewiston Morning Tribune, from 4 specific dates in April 1981, the 7th, 17th, 19th, and 24th. One part of her right leg was never found. Her clothes, personal stuff, and the bike, all missing, gone. Detectives didn't have much to work with. The newspapers suggested the killer either lived in Lewiston or had access to those specific back issues. And the way everything was wrapped, each body part separated, bagged, and sunk, pointed to someone organized and patient. Someone who could transport body parts without being seen. Several witnesses who saw Kristen on her bike ride mentioned seeing a dark-colored van, maybe metallic blue, moving slowly along the highway. Some said it had Oregon plates. The FBI profile said they were looking for a white male, 21 to 28 years old. Intelligent but an underachiever, probably living alone or with his mom. Somewhere he could take a victim and cut them up in private. Now, there's this serial killer called the Lewis-Clark Valley Killer, who murdered at least 4 women in that area between 1979 and 1982. A lot of people think Kristen's case is connected, but here's the thing. None of those other victims were dismembered. Kristen's case was different, more methodical, more disturbing. That missing piece of her leg? Some investigators think the killer kept it as a trophy. And if that's true, Kristen probably wasn't his only victim. It's been over 40 years since she pedaled down that highway. Somewhere out there, her killer might still be alive. And he might still have that piece of evidence that could finally expose him. And there you have it, guys. 3 disturbing murder mysteries that show us the darkest corners of human nature. Some of these cases remain unsolved to this day. Others were eventually solved, but only after years or even decades of pain and suffering. If these cases affected you, please remember to be kind to each other out there. Check on your friends and family. You never know what someone might be going through. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the world of true crime. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next one.